Before I start this video, I want to apologize because I think that there's some things that I explained that were completely wrong in the settings. If there were some things that I talked about that were completely incorrect, please let me know in the comments. Besides that, I hope you enjoy. How's it going, guys and girls from the internet? Tyler from TL Videos here, and before I start this video, I want to let you know that I recorded this for 45 minutes, and the recording was completely trash because my screen resolution was way too high. My native monitor resolution is 4K. I think it's like 3840 by 2160 or something like that, and it can't record anything. I should have known this. I should have been smarter, but I was not, and the frame rate for this video was, I think, like 3 frames per second. But anyway, to actually jump into this, a ton of people have been commenting about this. I've been getting so many messages on Twitter, and that is, Tyler, what do you use to record your PC games and actually just to record your PC screen in general? Well, the answer to that is I use OBS, which is Open Broadcast Software, or Open Broadcast Studio. Now, before I jump into this, I want to let you know that this video will cater more towards Windows 10 users. Since I switched to Windows 10 a few days ago, OBS absolutely hates Windows 10 and vice versa. I mean, OBS crashes, I can't record at my native resolution anymore, I have to lower the resolution. In fact, right now I'm recording at 1920 by 1080, and I think there actually will be a little bit of lag still in this video, but it is usable. However, for those of you that use like Windows 8 or Windows 7, this video does still pertain to you because overall these settings are going to be exactly the same almost. So to begin, obviously you're going to need the Open Broadcast software. You're going to need to go to the website, which is obsproject.com. I'll put a link right in the description so you guys can go and get it. Go download it. It's free. Everybody uses it. Markiplier uses it. There's no viruses whatsoever. There's no reason for you to not use it, as it is, in my opinion, the best screen capture available. Now, when you download it, you will be presented with either the 64-bit or the 32-bit. Now, both of these will be downloaded. However, it will be your computer's preference as to which one to use. And what I mean by that is, now that I switched to Windows 10, I used to use the 32-bit on Windows 8. However, the 32-bit now results in crackly audio, glitchy video, and is absolutely, positively, completely unusable. And I tested the 64-bit. For some reason, the 64-bit works now for my computer. Don't know why. Again, Windows 10 is very unstable with OBS, for those of you that don't know.
You're gonna be wishing that you never invite me.
There we go.
You're like, oh, you're gonna go to the last beach. Oh, spitting bars because I'm a boss and you don't know me. I don't know.
See, I have my school ID, which I probably don't need anymore.
I'm spitting bars faster than Skepta.
So now with that out of the way, I'm going to teach you everything that I know about OBS. This is going to be a very extensive video for those of you that have no idea what you're doing, or for those of you that want to see exactly what my settings are since you've seen my videos. Again, everybody's computer is different, so just do a lot of recordings, just test it, because OBS is definitely a trial and error style program. So the first thing you're going to see up here is profile and scene selection. You don't really have to worry about any of these other things at all. And to be completely honest, you really don't have to worry about these either. Whenever you make a scene, you'll basically, again, just make a scene. You'll set the scene for what you want to record. As you can see, there's also scenes down here, but this kind of scene selection is the overall screen that will pop up. You can make a new scene and have basically a completely new options to put in. However, I learned the hard way that apparently this doesn't matter. So for example, if you wanted to record with different settings with a game capture rather than recording your screen, it doesn't matter, because whatever settings you switch it to in a different scene, the settings also then change in the other scene. So I just keep it in one big thing. I don't know why there's a reason to do this, but again, just make a scene, make a profile. I can't make a profile because I'm currently recording, and then just keep them like that. So now going down here, these are scenes, again, setting the scene for what you were actually going to record. So I have display capture, window capture, and game capture, something I want to get out of the way right now. If I switch to a different scene to add a new source, you will see a black screen. You can see that I have display capture set up because I want this to, I basically want to know that, hey, I'm putting a display capture here, so I'm going to be recording a display capture, which is my screen. As you can see, if I switch to something else that doesn't have a source in it, you can see absolutely nothing. And I switch back to display capture and you can see it again. To make a new scene, all you have to do is right-click, hit add, name the scene whatever you want to name it. If you want to name it Gary's Mod Insane MLG Quickscope Gone Minecraft Almost Shot Prank Social Experiment, you can do that. However, I'm not going to create a scene because I already have scenes set up for what I want to show you. So we'll start with my display capture scene. As you can see, I already have a source of a display capture here. If you want to add a source, I'm going to start with just display capture. I'm going to go down to display capture. And you can either create a new one or add existing. As you can see, since I have this one existing, I can add this. However, I'm just going to decide to overlap it. Really does not make much of a difference whatsoever. Make source visible. You want to keep this on because if you keep it off, you're not going to be able to see your source at all. So you would have no idea if it's even recording. If you ended up doing a recording, went back and saw that you recorded a black screen for 2 hours, obviously that would be very upsetting. And yes, that has happened to me before. So now that you select it, it'll pop up with this, and you can see that this is the display capture that's on top of this. So choose the display. I choose to capture cursor whenever I'm doing my display capture because a lot of times you'll be doing a tutorial for editing or something like that, or you'll be on the internet and you'll be clicking things. You want to have this on so people can actually see it. So now that I hit OK, you can see that there's almost no difference whatsoever. I have the display capture here, moving it around, and the display capture on top. It's the same thing. There's no reason to make a display capture on top of another display capture, but if you did add this is exactly what it looks like, and that's a display capture. Now, window capture is a little tricky. Obviously, I named this window capture because if I go over to source and I'm in window capture, I want to add a window capture, I'll click this. However, I'm not going to click it because for some reason on Windows 10, window capture does not work very well at all. Usually window capture is used for recording something in a window. Now this works for games like Hearthstone or Spellweaver or something like that, or Brawlhalla on Steam, because these don't record as a game capture, which I will get to later. You would record those as a window, even if they are full screen. And as window capture suggests, that also works for things like Google Chrome. Google Chrome is a window. It runs at a window. So you would think that if you chose window capture and you chose Google Chrome as the window that you would go to, it would pop up, right? Well, for some reason in Windows 10, it doesn't, and I have not found a solution for that. So just stick with the screen capture. As you can see, if I go over here, it records it absolutely fine. The only reason why someone would want a window capture for something like Google Chrome to record is if you want to cut out this bottom stuff here, because it would just record the window and not the actual entire monitor itself. So again, in summary of that, window capture works good with things like Hearthstone and other things like that. I will actually provide examples for you at the end of this video of all the different games that I play and the different settings. But if you're using a window capture for something like Google Chrome, it usually doesn't work. Again, that's just Windows 10, or at least that I've seen with that. So now I'm going to show you game capture. Game capture is used for things like Gary's Mod and actual games. As you can see there, Windows 10 gave me a warning because I just switched to Gary's Mod. I just opened it so I can actually show you it appearing in this, but again, I'm recording in 1920 by 1080 because I can't record at my CPU's native resolution. As you can see down here, you see the CPU usage. This was up at around 90% when I was recording normally, and now it's at 16% with 1920 by 1080, but a lot of times I record even lower than that. For example, Gary's Mod, I record at 1280 by 720, but I'll actually get into the whole resolution thing later. For now, you're going to see the screen become black. Now, I'm actually going to, let me see if I can actually add a display capture here too, so you can see what's going on. Okay, I was able to do that. So as you can see here, I went to my game capture scene and I have a game capture source right here. Now, it's the same thing with this. You right click, you add, you go to game capture. Now, once you add that, you go to properties, and this is where things start to get a little tricky. Now, capture any full screen application. You can either keep this on or off. I keep it off. I actually used to keep it on. However, what I found was whenever I would switch to something like Gary's Mod, I would Alt-Tab back to OBS to make sure it was recording or the screen popped up, and OBS never registered it. It would never appear in the window. So if you have this checked off, you can select which window you want it to cover. So Gary's Mod is obviously the only game. If you were to choose like Google Chrome, it wouldn't pop up because it's not a game capture. It's not a full screen application. So I'm going to select Gary's Mod. Windows match priority, I keep it at the executable name. Multi-adapter compatibility, you do want to keep this on. For scaling, I don't really mess with that. I know some people have issues with that. Just look on a forum and see if your computer has a little bit of problems with that. Allow transparency, don't have to worry. Limit capture frame rate. Do not put this on. If you put this on, it'll basically make the frame rate choppy. I know a lot of people have had bad experiences with that. I don't know the actual settings that you would need, or scenarios I mean, to actually put that on. Capture cursor, you can keep it on or off depending on what game you're playing. I keep it on when I'm playing Gary's Mod because usually whenever you go to your inventory, you have the mouse, but whenever you click out, it doesn't have the mouse anymore. Anti-cheat compatibility hook. I was just looking this up a few days ago. Don't know exactly what it does. Cannot answer that question. Apologize for that. There are a lot of things that I actually don't know as well. However, the last option right here is the most important option out of all of this, especially if you're recording something like Gary's Mod, Team Fortress, etc. Because if you have this checked off, you cannot have a Steam game appear in your screen. If you have this selected on, it says, capture third-party overlays such as Steam. So that is why you definitely want to keep it on whenever you're playing something like Steam. Hit OK. And now I'm going to put the display capture under the game capture. And I'm going to delete the display capture so I can show you Gary's Mod popping up. Once I close OBS, or I just minimize it, switch over to Gary's Mod, and I Alt-Tab back to OBS. And now you can see this little box here, and you can see, Windows 10 giving me the thing saying, hey, what are you doing? You're not recording, you're not at the native resolution. So don't worry about that. Record at whatever resolution works with your computer. So as you can see here, the game capture popped up, but what the heck, it's so small, it's blurry and everything. Now, this is where you have some options if something looks like this. Just go to transform. It's a very simple fix. Choose fit to screen, stretch to screen, or center to screen. If you choose center to screen, it will just center it. Obviously, it didn't help. You have a giant box essentially, and you don't want that. So just go to go to transform again. And instead of that, hit fit to screen. And now it'll fit to screen. Now, I do apologize. You were actually unable to see me select that, so I will add a display capture back to this. And what I did was I went to transform and I went down here. So fit to screen, stretch to screen, center to screen, so you guys just see those options. I didn't realize that I actually didn't have the display capture on. Useful thing to know, if you are ever doing a tutorial like this, you always want to make sure you have a display capture in your source. Otherwise, black screen. So I'm going to delete that display capture, but as you can see, game capture now is black. If you switch to a different scene while game capture is going, it will go back to a black screen. So if that happens, just go back to your game, Alt-Tab, back to OBS, and now it works fine. Also, with the whole transforming thing, if you want to, you can just manually drag. As you can see here, I'm dragging the display capture around, but something that you need to know is that right now I'm recording in 1920 by 1080. If I were to fit this to the screen, it would fit the 1920 by 1080 in the box, but this would become a small little thing on the top left because I'm recording at a lower resolution than my native resolution. My native resolution is bigger. So now that I have finally covered those, it's time to go to the settings and mess around with these. Now, there's a lot of different things that will pop up. General, you do not need to worry about any of these except your language. If you want to speak in Bahasa Malu, I do not know what that is. You can speak in it. However, obviously, I am English and I need to do that. You can choose a different theme if you want. A lot of people like the gray. color around here. However, as you can see, some of the words get grayed out because it's gray on black or black on gray. I like to keep it on white. Makes everything pop. You can actually see what you're doing. And then just make sure you hit apply after you choose any different settings. So output, you can see that all these are grayed out. These are grayed out because I am currently recording. Obviously, I cannot change these settings while I'm recording, so it's not letting me. But I'll go through these the best I can. Now, as you can see here, streaming. If you are not streaming, this is not a video on streaming. This is only recording. I put a disclaimer in the beginning of this video because I think I forgot to say that. Just don't worry about this whatsoever. There have been a ton of times where I've been recording and I realized that everything was wrong because I thought that this was the recording tab, but it was streaming. If you're not streaming, this has absolutely nothing to do with the recording. Now, streaming, again, entirely different story. So you're going to want to go over to recording. You're going to want to put the output mode at advanced and put the type at standard. Now, if you don't put the type at standard, it will pop up with like a custom output thing, and what that will result in is you not being able to have more than one audio track, and I will get to audio a little bit later. But recording path, self-explanatory, browse where you want to put your videos, where you want the video to actually save once you're done recording. Generate file name without space, I don't know what this is, have never had a use for it, but make sure your recording format is at MP4. Do not record at FLV. In fact, the OBS gives you a warning about this. If you record at FLV, you will not be able to support multiple tracks per recording or multiple audio tracks. So right here, I have audio track 1 and audio track 2 selected. So my desktop audio, you can hear that, is, at least I think you can. Let me check. Is the line going? Yeah, it is. Okay. My desktop audio is on a different track than my mic audio because you usually don't want the microphone to be on the same layer as your desktop audio, because imagine you're playing a game and it's really loud and you don't realize that your microphone is being drowned out by the sound. If you have them on just one audio track, you can't change that. Your audio is pretty much screwed. Your microphone, you obviously can't move it up unless you're an Audacity or Adobe Audition professional and you can somehow fix that. So again, really, really useful to record on two different audio tracks for the two different audio layers that you're using. So desktop audio, microphone audio, very, very simple. Make sure the encoder is at X264. Just put it to that. That's what a lot of people use, and I highly recommend just to set it to that. That way there's no problems. Rescale output. Now we're finally getting into some resolution things. Make sure that when you record anything, screen capture, window capture, game capture, all of your resolutions are the same. As you can see, if I jump to the video, you can see the resolution here. Everything is what I'm recording at. My display, my monitor is 1920 by 1080. This is 1920 by 1080. These two are 1920 by 1080. You always want to do that, because if you don't do that, the video will get messed up. OBS will be confused and be like, well, why is this at 1280 by 720 if this is at 640 by something else, you know? So it'll confuse it. Rate control, put it at CBR and put your bit rate at whatever your resolution is. And what's awesome about that is YouTube has a really handy chart that shows what your megabits per second has to be when you're recording. So for example, right now I'm recording at 1920 by 1080 at 30 frames per second. So I'm going to be recording at 8,000 megabits per second. That's what I want the bit rate to be. Don't put it at 8. If you put it at 8, it won't work. It's 8,000, 5,000, 12,000. You get the picture. So whenever I go back down here, obviously I'm already at 8,000, so that works fine. If you're recording at 60 frames per second at 4K, which again, my laptop's native resolution is 4K, and it's terrible. I can't record at that anymore with Windows 10 at all. You would put it at 68,000 megabits per second, which is insane. I do not know how someone could actually do that, but again, mine is at 8,000. Use custom buffer size. Depending on your computer, look at support on OBS to see if you need to use this or not. I don't really need to use it. CPU usage. Higher equals less CPU. If you put it higher, it will use less of your CPU. As you can see down here, it's at 18.4%. That's how much OBS is using. However, if you put it too high, the quality will start to drop. And so it'll actually completely ruin the purpose of putting your CPU lower so that you have better quality. And if you put it low, I mean, if you put it too low, it'll just almost blow up your PC essentially. I mean, if you put it low, it'll be using all of the CPU, so you will need a very, very good computer if you choose to do that. The rest of these, you can just keep these off. You don't need to do anything with that. I'm going to hit apply. Now I'm going to go to audio. I have audio tracks 3 and 4, but at 160 because I'm not using those. As you saw before, I am using tracks 1 and 2. So audio, always put the bitrate at 320 for what you're recording with. There is no reason to not put it at 320. However, if you're streaming, that's a different story. You need to put the bitrate lower because the stream might not be able to handle 320 depending on your internet speed and all the other settings that unfortunately I'm not going to cover in this video because I do not stream. So now we go to audio. I know that we just did audio and now there's more audio settings. This lets you choose what is actually presenting the audio. So the game audio is going to be going through my headphones. I am currently wearing headphones. If I put it to default, it would come out of my computer. So OBS would be like, okay, there's no speakers. Let's record the audio going out of his computer. And disabled is if you were just recording a game and you wanted absolutely no game sound whatsoever, which most of the time you don't want to do that. So I'm going to select my speakers, headphones, Realtek high definition audio. Sample rate, forgot to cover that. Just keep it at 44.1. There's not really a reason to put it at 48, actually. Channels, keep it on stereo. So now we go down to the mic and auxiliary audio device. This is what you use to record your voice. Very, very important. But you will most of the time have, I don't know, a lot of the settings, actually, I forgot to say this, don't freak out. Your settings are going to be different from mine. You are not going to have exactly the same settings. You have disabled, obviously, no audio. Default, which is your laptop's microphone. So if your microphone has a built-in if your laptop has a built-in microphone, that is what the audio would come out of. USB microphone is what I'm using right now. Then there's stereo mix. Then there's the webcam C920 microphone, which I'll get to later, because I actually think I forgot to show you my webcam. There's the Elgato sound capture, and then there's the microphone, which actually, come to think of it, default and this are the same thing. But anyway, put it to what you want it to be, and then hit apply, hit OK. Now we're going to go down to video, and I'm going to cover this only very briefly since I already talked to you about resolution. Put this at whatever your game and display is at. You want these to be exactly the same. As you can see, the video output is currently active, so it's saying, you're recording, you can't change this, you suck. So I apologize that I can't change that, but just put it at whatever resolution your display and game is at, and then it'll be okay. So now when you go down to hotkeys and advanced, I do not mess with these whatsoever. Process priority, messed with that a little bit. Do not touch this. I learned my lesson to not touch this whatsoever. Just don't mess with this. Hotkeys, though, if you want to quickly have the ability to switch something, which usually when you're recording, you don't need to, there's no reason to do hotkeys if you have no purpose for it. If you do have a purpose, you can go and just change these settings to your needs, but I have no needs for these. So now that we went through general stream, output, not stream because we don't stream, output, audio, video, hotkeys, advanced, we are good to go. However, there's one last thing I forgot to let you guys know about besides audio, and that is in OBS, you have the ability to add a video capture device, which is your face cam, as you can see right here. Hello. So with these options right here, you have different options as to what camera you want to choose. This is my integrated webcam. However, I'm going to choose my Logitech webcam to use because obviously it's better quality. Deactivate, that's just if you want to turn off your webcam, which usually you're not going to want to. Configure video. This is the actual settings of the webcam itself. So this isn't in OBS. This is actually changing these in the camera itself if you just want the ability to do that instead of going out of OBS and then opening it up. Configure crossbar. I have had no use for that whatsoever. Don't know what it is. Deactivate when not showing. This is just if your webcam isn't on and you just want to deactivate it. Usually you don't need to put that off. However, device default for the resolution and FPS type. You are most of the time going to want to change this because if you're recording at a lower resolution because your computer can't handle a higher resolution, you're going to want your webcam to do the same thing. So I'm recording in 1920 by 1080 So I'm either going to put my webcam at 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720. I'm going to play it safe and put it at 1280 by 720. Now the FPS, match output FPS, you can just keep it at that. It's basically matching the frames per second that OBS is doing, at least I believe that's correct. Video format, keep it in any, and then the rest of these is not really, you don't really have to mess with them except for capture audio only, the audio output mode. As you can see, you can also move your webcam around, but that brings me to audio. This is basically your audio control center. If my mic is too loud, I'm going to put it down. Obviously, you can hear that I'm getting softer and softer. And now I'm getting louder and louder and louder. If you're recording with only one track, which again, don't recommend, but if you actually have to just record with one track with your mic and your game audio together, or whatever audio is playing, you can use this to turn it up or down. So if your desktop audio is too loud, you can put it down. That way you can see the green line and see, you know, okay, you know, this is my audio is louder than the sound that is going out of the computer. That way, the sound from the computer is not drowning out your microphone. Apologize. But as you can see, whenever we added a webcam, the video capture device popped up. And remember how I've been saying that you want to record on multiple audio tracks? Well, this mixer right here lets you choose what to do. And if you get this wrong, you will have no audio. This has happened to me many, many, many times. I've had times where I selected the wrong audio track. I didn't realize that I didn't have an audio track selected, so there was no audio. You can see that the video capture device right here is on tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't want my webcam to play any kind of audio because I obviously have my microphone and my desktop audio. So you're going to unclick all of that. It's tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4. The mic, I like to keep on track 2. I like to keep my desktop audio on track 1. This just applies to editing whenever you edit. If you throw it into Adobe Premiere Pro, or I think maybe Sony Vegas, it'll come up with both tracks. But also, if you are recording with something that does not let you drag in both audio tracks, usually if you drag it in Adobe Premiere Pro and you drag it onto the timeline, the audio will be stuck to it on 2 different tracks, so you won't have to sync it up. But if you drag it in and you see, oh no, there's only one track, don't freak out. Go to the VLC media player and then just export both audio clips differently. Again, you'll have to sync it up, but if you want to record on different audio tracks and you don't have the option to bring it into Adobe Premiere Pro with them together, then that's what you'll have to do. I think a lot of people actually have to do that, so don't feel bad. But with these selected, that is it for the actual setup with OBS. As you can see, again, I'm gonna move my webcam around, my display capture is on, so I am actually going to show you guys some games that I play and the quality of them. Okay, so as you guys can see, I am currently in Garry's Mod. I play Garry's Mod a lot, and I'm just going to choose a map really quick, but I am playing this in 1280 by 720. Again, remember to actually change your resolution to the point where OBS can handle it and your game can handle it, because there have been times where my game was fine, but OBS was lagging. Basically, again, OBS is a trial and error style software. You will have to have like 13 recordings to figure out, you know, what settings you have. But once you figure out the settings, it's really, really useful. You know, I had all my settings set for Windows 8, but whenever I jumped up to Windows 10, I had recordings with friends and they didn't work, you know, so I had to go back for literally hours to try to figure out the problem until I realized it was the resolution. So I had to put the resolution all the way down to 1280 by 720. But as you can see here, this is Garry's Mod. The quality of Garry's Mod is still perfectly fine. You know, obviously the frame rate is going to have just a tiny bit of difference with it. And something that I forgot to say is whenever you're recording at 1280 by 720 or any resolution for that matter, remember to change the bitrate too. The bitrate for this needs to be 5000 because you're recording at this resolution. So just go to the bitrate thing on YouTube, or just type in YouTube bitrate chart. Sorry, I was concentrating on typing in the code, and then you'll find out which one. So as you can see, Garry's Mod actually looks perfectly fine from my end, which overall is what you want. You know, even if your recording has just like a tiny drop of frame rate, and by tiny I mean I think this might have a frame rate drop of probably excuse me, my phone just went off, probably like say 28 frames per second instead of 30 or 29. So I'm actually, you know, firing my gun and stuff, and the quality is fine. Again, guys, use OBS to record if you can. I've always used OBS, and I mean, it's better than Bandicam, and there's no limit on OBS. You know, there's no limit to what you can record at. You can change the resolution, completely customize it, and you can record for hours as long as your PC can handle it. So I'll just show you an enemy, and I'm shooting an enemy. Hit me, bro. Hit me, bro. All right. Yeah, okay. So again, guys, this is Gary's mod. Pardon, it's not OBS. So if you like the quality of Gary's mod, then go and play it yourself. Again, your computer might be different. Windows 10 on your computer might be able to handle 1920 by 1080 or even 4K, which I have no idea how. You must have a very, very powerful computer. But I'm going to switch back to OBS, and then I'll show you a different game that I play at a different resolution. Okay guys, so now I'm going to show you Hearthstone, and Hearthstone is an example of a game that actually can work on window capture. If I move this out of the way, this is the battle.net thing. I added a display capture so you guys can actually see the settings here. Whenever I go to window capture, as my scene, you know, and then window capture is the actual source, and hit properties, you can choose either battle.net or Hearthstone. Now I am running this at 1920 by 1080. This game is actually able to be ran at 1920 by 1080. I don't know how, but it actually is. Actually, believe it or not, I don't know why it's getting cut off. Let me go over to the settings and see what's wrong with it. It is at 1920 by 1080. Now what in the world is happening with OBS? This is a new problem that I have not seen before. Okay guys, I actually don't know what's wrong with Hearthstone. I'll come back in a moment. Okay guys, so I don't know how this happened, but believe it or not, somehow I'm able to record Hearthstone at my computer's native resolution, being that the actual display of my computer is at 4K, but Hearthstone is at 1920 by 1080. That's why, for some reason, it was completely cutting this off. As you can see, this actually, while it's in 4K, I'm able to see the whole screen. I'm able to actually shrink it down. And why it's not lagging, I don't know why. Again, OBS is very finicky. This was actually new for me. I didn't realize that I actually had to play in 4K, but then scale it to 1920 by 1080. Usually you want to keep it the exact same as the game that you're playing, but in this case, it works fine for some reason. So, you know, OBS never fails to surprise you, even if you use it, you know, all the time. Let me just play a game real quick so I can show you the gaming quality of Hearthstone. I guess I should just play with any random hero. But if anything like that ever happens where your screen is getting cut off for some reason, again, this is window capture. Hearthstone is in window capture mode. Just check the resolution, I guess, of your display monitor to see if it's too small, or if the game is for some reason getting cut off even though the game is smaller. OBS, you know, doesn't make sense sometimes, but luckily I was able to figure that out. So if that's a problem for you too, hopefully that helped solve that problem for you as well. But as you can see in OBS, there's a bit of a tiny, you know, frame rate drop, but overall it works perfectly fine, especially for something like Hearthstone. You know, it's not something that requires the most amazing frame rate. All you're doing is, you know, playing cards. Those are the two games that I wanted to show you as examples for OBS. Hopefully you guys enjoy what I showed you, and hopefully this helped you. I made this video with the intention of helping everyone that asked me questions about this, and that's why I covered as much as I did. I wanted to put it all in one video, and if you do have any questions about anything that I didn't cover for some reason or somehow, just ask me in the comments, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And trust me, I will see your comment. I see all the comments on my videos. So thank you guys for watching this super duper long video. It took me a lot of time and energy to make, especially with the 45 minutes that was cut out because my computer lagged. So I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like if this helped you and you plan on using OBS. And with that, I'll see you guys next time when I'm on Windows 10 and OBS hates it.